Have you ever truly considered why we crave what eludes us? Why the noblest gestures, offered without reservation, so often fade into oblivion? And why, the harder you strive to prove your worthiness of love, the more undeserving you ultimately feel? Men forget more quickly the death of their father than the loss of their patrimony. Friedrich Nietzsche. This isn't merely about power or politics. It's about the true engines of human connection: inherent value, scarcity, and undeniable desire. Look closely. What is love but a silent battle between presence and absence, between overexposure and strategic withdrawal? How many times have you given your all, only to receive next to nothing? How many times have you bent over backward, hoping to be chosen, only to be dismissed? Perhaps the flaw lies in the very act of seeking selection, for a man who needs to be picked has already forfeited his sovereignty. In this exploration, you won't find cheap formulas, fleeting seduction tactics, or catchy platitudes from some self-help guru who's never known profound love. What awaits you here is the very essence of centuries of philosophy, psychology, and raw human desperation. You will confront 5 Nietzschean principles, not designed for manipulation, but which, when lived authentically, make women desperately want to be part of your world. Not through trickery, but because you will finally possess what most men have lost: your own intrinsic gravitational pull. Here, Nietzsche isn't just the philosopher of the Superman. He will be the surgeon of the wounded ego, the stark mirror reflecting broken masculinity. The man who grasped that to command a nation or a heart, you must first command your own existence. If you're weary of pretending, of fawning, of constant explanations, of the relentless chase, if something within you still beats silently, like an exiled king anticipating the recapture of his inner throne, then this journey is yours. But be warned, these 5 tenets are not comfortable. They weren't forged to please. They were forged to liberate. And freedom often carries a sting. So, settle in, breathe deeply, and allow these ideas to permeate your mind, either as a slow-acting poison or a vital antidote. For when you cease to implore, they begin to implore for you. There's a specific kind of man who, upon entering a room, doesn't need to utter a single word. He doesn't force charm, nor does he flaunt his conquests. He simply exists, and that presence is sufficient. Have you encountered such a man? While others stoop, perform, or beg for attention, he remains poised, like an altar awaiting its devoted. This isn't arrogance, it's existential strategy. Nietzsche never wrote about romantic love, yet he delved deep into the will to power. And love, my dear friend, is the most untamed terrain of human power. The overman must desire respect and love, but if a choice must be made, let it be respect. Now, listen to this with new ears. Here, respected signifies valued, inviolable, precious, rare. Most men make a fatal error. They offer their presence like an alms offering, always accessible, perpetually smiling, consistently agreeable. And the more they give of themselves, the more they vanish, for love, much like power, isn't bestowed, it's provoked. There is a cruel, yet undeniable truth embedded within feminine desire. She yearns for what she doesn't fully possess. She falls for what is complex, not what is easily deciphered. Not for the man who places her at the center of his universe, but for the man who has a universe she deeply wishes to enter. Do you understand what happens when you relentlessly pursue a woman? You transform into a clearance rack display, a flashing sign that reads, "Take me, I'm available at any cost." And what is abundant invariably loses its worth. Imagine a rare perfume, tucked away in a hidden boutique in New York City. No advertising, no grand display. Now, Picture a complimentary sample dispensed at the entrance of a bustling mall in suburban America. Both might share the same scent, but which one would stir your desire more profoundly? The human mind and heart operate in precisely this manner. We long for what isn't freely given. Therefore, the first Nietzschean principle of attraction isn't about conquest. It's about becoming the prize, the coveted trophy, the enigmatic figure who doesn't seek, but rather attracts, who doesn't offer himself, but stands firmly and selectively present. You might wonder, but isn't this just playing games? No. Playing games is pretending to be someone you're not. Here, we are discussing living a life so rich, so profound, so uniquely yours, that anyone wishing to be a part of it must genuinely qualify. And not the other way around. Have you ever been the one sending messages, then agonizingly awaiting a response? The one who asks, "Did I do something wrong?" The one who gives everything, clinging to the hope of receiving mere crumbs? If so, you already know the bitter taste of humiliation, and perhaps you are finally ready for the even more bitter, yet ultimately liberating taste of true transformation. Understand this. It's not about being indifferent, but about being whole. Complete men do not chase. They walk their own unwavering path, and those who genuinely desire them align their steps. To deviate from your own trajectory for the sake of a woman is to abandon the most precious thing you possess, your core, your internal kingdom. Deep down, women don't want a man who makes them the sole center of his world. They want to be the dazzling eclipse within a universe that already spins. They long to enter an orbit that is stable, mysterious, and utterly secure. And inspiring. That only happens when you can be entirely present, never begging, able to meet her gaze and silently convey, "You're extraordinary, but so am I, and my life is too rich to sacrifice for a mere maybe." True scarcity, the kind that springs from a fulfilling life, from a genuine purpose, is a potent aphrodisiac. Do you wish to be coveted? Then become rare. Cultivate your physique, not out of vanity, but through discipline. Nurture your mind, not for intellectual display, but because you honor your own stillness. Set ambitious goals, pursue your passions, develop something independent of anyone's approval. Then, when you're too absorbed living your grand narrative, she will feel your absence as a profound presence. And she will come, not due to manipulation, but because you finally ceased the chase. Nature abhors a vacuum. When you withdraw, something inevitably fills that space. Her desire, fueled by your silence, by your selective presence, by your vibrant life, will inevitably seek to invade it. That's when the dynamic shifts, not because you won, but because you were never playing the game. There's a particular kind of silence that shouts, not empty stillness, but one that holds secrets, struggles, triumphs, and enigmas. This is the silence that captivates. It's not the silence of absence, but of a presence not fully surrendered. Do you know what exhausts a woman? Someone who, on the very first encounter, spills their entire emotional autobiography onto the table. My past was this. My ex did that. My dream is so and so. In a single evening, she reads the entire book. But the books we devour quickly are rarely reread. Those that leave us with questions, however, these reside in our minds for years. Nietzsche asserted that a wise leader never reveals all his intentions. The same holds true for the man who wishes to be desired, not out of cowardice, but as emotional strategy. Because when everything is said, nothing remains sacred. And the sacred, that which beats silently within us, is what truly seduces. The female mind, much like the male, yearns to explore, to decipher, to conquer. When you expose yourself completely, without restraint, Without measure, without mystery, she no longer needs to imagine. And imagination is the birthplace of desire. Have you ever noticed how enigmatic characters in films are almost always the most alluring? It's not because they speak little. It's because they reveal less than they know. They create space for the other to fill with fantasy. And fantasy, my dear, is the very architecture of desire. You might be the most fascinating man on earth, yet if you emotionally undress excessively, you'll soon appear predictable. And predictability in the realm of seduction is like lukewarm water, never remembered, never desired again. This doesn't mean you should be cold, unattainable, or withdrawn. It means you must know how to safeguard parts of yourself as relics are protected, with reverence. An untold narrative, a trauma not detailed, a dream held in your gaze. This is the fertile ground where feminine curiosity blossoms. She will look at you and wonder, who is this man who doesn't need to explain himself? Why isn't he trying to convince me of anything? Is he testing my intelligence or simply respecting my time? She will study you, observe you, search for your flaws, your fears, and the more she tries to decipher, the more entangled she becomes. You transform into an enigma, and an enigma is the most powerful invitation there is. We are not discussing manipulation, we are talking about ritual. Love, when it genuinely arises, is a ritual, not a data report. And ritual demands time, discovery, patience, and tension. You need to be like that dimly lit room in an old mansion. With each door she opens, something new appears, yet she still feels she hasn't seen everything. That sense of, there's more, is what sustains fascination. Show layers, reveal fragments, but guard the core. Let her see your strength, but conceal your scars for a time. Display your intellect, but not your complete emotional map. Grant access to the garden, but keep the sanctuary closed. And yes, perhaps one day she will earn the key, but only if she possesses the courage worthy of what lies within. Not out of vanity, but because what is truly valuable requires proof. This silent game, where you don't lie, but also don't surrender everything, is what distinguishes the ordinary man from the unforgettable man. In the world of seduction, being unforgettable is far more potent than being desired for a fleeting moment. Remember, it's not about being an eternal mystery. It's about being a universe the other desires to enter, but never fully grasp. Because ultimately, what keeps desire alive is not what we know, but what still remains to be discovered. There's a silent scene that repeats night after night in the lives of many men. He stares at his phone, no reply, checks messages, analyzes every word, every comma, feels his chest tighten, and then, in a desperate impulse, he types once more. Are you all right? Did I do something wrong? Why did you disappear? This is the exact moment attraction dissolves, not out of malice but by instinct. For the man unable to contain his desperation becomes emotionally fragile, and no one desires that which appears crumble with a mere whisper. Nietzsche, at the heart of his philosophy, taught that the true leader is one unmoved by chaos. He may bleed internally but outwardly stands tall, knowing that displaying weakness to an adversary garners neither respect nor victory. Now, transpose this to the realm of attraction. The adversary isn't her, it's your insecurity, your desperate need for validation, your rush to secure guarantees before desire can even blossom. You need to grasp something profound, almost brutal. Uncontrolled emotion is an open invitation to contempt. It doesn't matter how much you express love, care, or a longing to be close. If your words are fueled by anxiety, urgency, and dependency, they don't entice, they suffocate. Women perceive this. They feel it. They don't need a map to know when you've lost control of your internal compass. What was once attraction transforms into pity. What was charm becomes annoyance. Yet, the man who masters his emotions, not by suppressing but by governing them, he radiates something rare: stability. She might cancel a date, delay her response, even provoke and test him repeatedly. He merely observes with a faint smile and continues his routine, not out of coldness, but out of emotional discipline. He understands he doesn't kneel before external fluctuations because his internal world isn't for sale. This type of man is uncommon, and precisely for that reason, so coveted. He's like a tree amidst a storm. He sways, but doesn't break. And every woman, consciously or not, seeks that firm trunk to lean upon. But here lies the crucial point. You don't become this man overnight. It demands practice. It necessitates bleeding in silence sometimes. It requires making mistakes, reacting poorly, apologizing, and then slowly learning to breathe before acting. Because when you can witness your own emotion emerge and consciously choose how to respond, you cease to be an instinctive animal. You become a sovereign, an emperor of yourself. And it is then that she begins to respect you. Not out of fear, but because in your calm, she finds security. In your pause, she sees intelligence. In your absence of desperation, she perceives value. Controlled composure isn't a lack of affection. It's the capacity not to be consumed by what you feel. It's feeling everything and still choosing not to lose your center. It's loving, but not begging. It's wanting, but not groveling. It's caring, but maintaining honor. For the man who explodes at any provocation, who demands immediate answers, who despairs at silence, that man is predictable, fragile, emotionally insecure. And what is fragile does not attract, except perhaps out of a maternal instinct. But here, we're not seeking care. We're seeking to be desired. So, the next time chaos threatens to invade, breathe, return to your body, find stillness within yourself, and remember, you don't need to prove anything to anyone who doesn't recognize your worth. The man who holds his emotions steady during a test doesn't repress his humanity. He honors his sovereignty. And that self-control, that serene composure, is what makes her not merely interested, but in a state of reverence. Do you remember the first time you held your tongue when you wanted to shout, or when you let a disrespectful attitude slide for fear of appearing too demanding? How many times did you swallow discomfort and smile? How many times did you mistake submission for patience, kindness for apathy? Such men multiply and slowly wither. Nietzsche, observing the dynamics of power, noted that kings lost their kingdoms not to the strength of their enemies, but to the silent concession of their own principles. A territory yielded here, another there, and before they realize it, they no longer command anything. In the arena of seduction, this happens daily. Men, desperate to please say yes when they wanted to say no. They accept sarcastic jabs, cancellations, flirtations disguised as jokes, and behind each concession, a piece of respect dies. You believe you're being gentle, but she senses she's dealing with someone who doesn't value himself, and the desire that could have sparked slips through your fingers. Do you know why? Because respect is the womb of desire. A woman might laugh, flirt, or play with an overly gentle man, but if she doesn't respect him, she won't desire him. And respect only blossoms where there are boundaries. A boundary is the sacred frontier of your territory. It's the line that declares, you are welcome up to here. Beyond this, no further. And a man without that line isn't a territory. He's a doormat. Imagine two scenarios. In the first, she plays a joke on you that diminishes you, and you laugh as if swallowing poison with sugar. In the second, she plays that joke, and you, with a firm gaze and a calm tone, respond, "There are things I don't find amusing, and that's one of them. In the first, you might win a laugh. In the second, you win respect. And more than that, desire. Because the man who sets boundaries carries a silent signal. I am valuable and I will not allow myself to be treated cheaply. This disarms, this fascinates, this awakens something primal. But be aware, setting boundaries isn't yelling, being aggressive or threatening. It's communicating with calm, with elegance, with firmness. It is to say no with the same effortless grace as saying yes, because he isn't afraid of loss. And this precisely is what sparks her curiosity. She senses you're not tethered to the outcome, but to your dignity. Here lies the paradox. The more willing you are to risk losing her for the sake of your integrity, the more she feels she's found someone worth pursuing. Consider this deeply. A man who accepts everything out of fear of being alone is already alone, having abandoned himself. But the man who remains whole in the face of provocation, disdain, or another's emotional chaos, that man radiates something rare. He doesn't need love. He chooses to love. And that changes everything. Women often test boundaries, sometimes consciously, sometimes not. Perhaps due to past trauma, habit, or simply to gauge if the man before them possesses a backbone or merely muscle. They arrive late, ignore texts, issue last-minute invitations, and with each gesture silently ask, "Do you love yourself enough to tell me no?" And when the answer is yes, when you decline with lightness, when you withdraw without drama, when you state, "That doesn't work for me," without shouting or pleading, she recognizes she's encountered someone different, someone who doesn't need to be adored, only respected. And that respect is the fertile ground where desire grows strong and untamed. Saying no doesn't push away genuine connections. It screens out the tests, filters the pretenses, and creates space for a real bond, built on mutual admiration to flourish. No is an offering, a quiet declaration. I am mine before I am anyone else's. The man who understands this isn't just desired. He is feared, admired, and above all, respected. There's a scene that replays like a recurring nightmare in men's lives. She arrives, beautiful, intense, enigmatic. Her presence throws you off balance, quickens your breath, shifts your focus, and unconsciously, you begin to revolve around her. The gym gets postponed. The week's goal is forgotten. The circle of friends fades. Your habits, your schedule, your routine, everything starts to orbit a new moon. But a moon, no matter how beautiful, was never meant to be a sun. Friedrich Nietzsche wrote, "He who depends on the luck or goodwill of others will never be free." In love, this truth is even more brutal. Do you wish to be desired? Then cease living like a subject. Become a king. The sovereign man doesn't mold himself to another's desires. He shapes his own destiny. He doesn't wait to be chosen. He chooses. This isn't coldness. It's maturity. It's the brutal awareness that no one will save you, that when love arrives, it must find an empire, not a vacant lot waiting to be built. The sovereign has a purpose greater than affection. He loves, yes, and deeply. But he doesn't stop training, creating, seeking, producing, building his work in the world. And here lies the most potent secret of attraction. The more devoted you are to your path, the more she wants to walk beside you. Not because you ignore her, but because you don't idolize her. Because your life is already so full of meaning that she doesn't need to complete it. She comes to celebrate it. Sovereignty is, first and foremost, an inner choice. It's waking early, even when no one is watching. It's keeping your word to yourself. It's doing what needs to be done, even when your heart is distracted by a soft voice and a sweet perfume. To be sovereign is to understand that passion fades, but mission endures, that desire can blind, but discipline illuminates. It's choosing every day to maintain your core, your clarity, your direction. Even when someone enters your life and disrupts your certainties, even when the urge to stay is greater than the fear of losing, even when her touch makes you forget who you were. And yet you remember. You remember because you don't just want to be someone who loves. You want to be someone who remembers himself even while loving. The woman who deserves you will perceive this and be captivated not just by your body, your mannerisms, your words, but by your structure, your consistency, your steadfastness. She will realize that beside you, there isn't a child begging for affection. There's a man walking with purpose who invites her to walk alongside, but doesn't stop. This man doesn't pressure, doesn't demand, doesn't dramatize. He lives. And it's that living, full of rhythm, presence, and objective, that makes her want to be there. Not out of need, but out of admiration. Because ultimately, she doesn't just want love. She wants direction, security, an intensity that doesn't suffocate, freedom with presence. And the only man capable of offering that is the one who became whole before loving. The one who isn't afraid of solitude because he made it his ally. The one who built a throne within himself and sat upon it. You can be that man, not tomorrow, not after she returns, but now. By choosing your battles, silencing impulses, rising up, even with a burning heart. Because that is what kings do. They feel, they desire, but they never kneel. 5 rules, 5 sharpened blades pointed not inward, not to manipulate, but to remember. Remember that ultimately it's not about conquering a woman, but about not losing yourself in the pursuit of someone else's desire. You stop chasing, not out of surrender, but because you understand that to be desired, you must first be whole. You stop over-explaining, not out of indifference, but because you've realized that mystery isn't absence, it's depth. You master your emotions, not by turning to stone, but by knowing the world is already filled with men who crumble at the slightest silence. You yearn to be different, to be the anchor. You say no when necessary, understanding that a true yes only gains value when it springs from a defined boundary. And above all, you follow your calling. Because true love never diverts a man from his path. It walks beside him or respectfully steps aside. So, if you've journeyed this far, look into the mirror and ask, are you the hunter or the shrine? Do you await selection, or do you live as one who has already chosen himself? In the end, Nietzsche wasn't merely discussing philosophy. He was delving into something far more intimate. The power to stand tall when everything beckons you to bend. Let me share something I've never confessed aloud. Years ago, I was that man. The one who sent overly long texts, who reshaped his schedule to please, who diminished himself just to avoid seeming difficult. And do you know what I discovered after a brutal rejection? What I offered wasn't love. It was submission veiled as affection. Worse still, I no longer respected myself. It was in that chasm that I truly met Nietzsche. Not in dusty books, but in practice. In the cold, painful decision to reclaim my own sovereignty, to erect boundaries where only open doors had existed, to value my silence, my time, my journey. And as if by magic, or inevitable consequence, everything shifted. Because when you transform internally, the world rearranges itself around you, and love, genuine love, is drawn to who you are, not who you attempt to be. Now, I want to offer you something not meant for everyone, but specifically for you, who has come this far, seeking deeper truths about your identity and the trajectory of your life. I've crafted something beyond a mere book. I've built a map for the soul, a manual weaving together science, philosophy, and critical thought to help you shatter limiting mental patterns, interrogate your self-perception, and rebuild yourself from the ground up. This isn't an ebook filled with pretty platitudes. It's a guide for those who can no longer bear to live on autopilot. If you feel an insistent stirring within, a plea for change, for evolution, for clarity, then this is your moment. Click the pinned comment and access the Manual of Self-Transformation right now. Don't read it out of idle curiosity. Read it because your very life depends on it. And if you choose to embark on this journey, you will not be the same person at its conclusion. If this video resonated deeply within you, thank you. Not just for listening, but for daring to face the mirror without emotional camouflage. This conversation isn't over. It has only just begun. And now, if you still haven't liked, commented, or subscribed, truly, my king, have you just heard a treatise on emotional warfare and yet you remain with your arms crossed? Leave a comment telling me which of these 5 rules struck you like an existential slap, or which one you still resist applying because you fear losing something that perhaps was never truly yours. And of course, subscribe, because the next video appearing on your screen is almost forbidden. There's something in it that makes men lose sleep. But you'll only discover it if you click. Go. I'll be waiting for you there in silence, like one who knows that power resides in the right kind of waiting.